Hi YouTube, this is the Peaceful Prepper. I'm not quite sure how this video is going to work, but I wanted to do a hopefully short video about the planning part of prepping, and especially the framework I've used to develop my emergency kits, or to plan them. I certainly am not finished implementing all of that. Also to share more about my prepping concerns. If you're someone like me who's a bit obsessive and enjoys lists, then this video is for you. I think it also might be helpful if you're really a beginning prepper and are just beginning to think about what kinds of things you need to consider when preparing for an emergency. I wish I was visually talented and could make some great graphics out of my list, but sadly, no. I have tried to upgrade my slides with color and some different formatting, so I hope this is interesting. First steps. Identify possible emergencies and their likely impacts. The scope of this is going to differ greatly from person to person. For me, at this stage of my prepping, I'm focusing on local, regional, and personal emergencies. Regardless of the scope, I think both research on specific risks and past emergencies in your area is an important part of the process. In addition, many people begin prepping because of a specific concern, which is sometimes on a national or even global scale. One of the benefits of prepping can or should be a reduction in anxiety. So incorporating any issue that we're particularly worried about, I think, is a really good idea. So these are the things that I'm focusing my preps on. And my focus is really on short to medium term emergencies, not the larger end of the world, zombies, total collapse. Increasingly volatile and dangerous weather in my area, that means winter storms and hurricanes primarily. The chemical spills and nuclear power plant accidents, I'm within the 50-mile zone of two different power plants, which means, in different directions. So if there were to be an accident, I have sort of double chance of being in the pathway depending on the wind. I don't know whether that makes sense, but that's my thinking. Terrorism. I grew up in New York City. At 9/11, all of my nuclear family still lived there, and it was a horrifying 24 hours of not being able to reach them and know how they are. And I just know a lot of people who were impacted or killed at the Twin Towers. And I live in the Boston area, just a few miles from the end of the Boston Marathon where the bombing was. So that's something that I'm just very aware of from personal experience. And then personal or family economic or health crises, how that could impact us and how to cushion that. Once we've identified the possible disasters that we're concerned about, it's important to think through the impact they'll have. Most things that we're prepping for, we don't have any control over. It's really the impact of the disasters that's really what our preps are focused on. So these are the impacts that I'm focusing on. Loss of electricity, heat, city water, sewage, cell system, inability to acquire household or food items, toxic environment due to pollution, chemical, biological, or radiological threat, need to stay indoors or remain in car, and that may be due to one of the previous things, and need to evacuate home or car. I want my kits to help me achieve the following goals. Find out what's going on and communicate as necessary or appropriate, to have adequate water and food, to keep dry and warm or cool depending on the weather, to be able to see at night, to have light, to maintain basic hygiene and sanitation, to respond to threats to my health or safety, to deal with other situations that may arise, things like a fire or something breaking, those types of things, to be able to leave home quickly if it's necessary, and to manage if I can't return home when I expect. I'm calling these functional areas. They're related to the goals I just went over, but not quite one-to-one. So the 12 areas that I try to address in some way in all my kits at different levels are water, food, light, shelter or some way to maintain body temperature, clothes, which is related to that certainly, but it helped me to have it in a separate category, hygiene and sanitation, first aid medical, communication, tools, personal safety, information, and this includes both information I might need, like planning, ways to purify water, various skills and knowledge, but also my personal information, copies of financial documents, social security card, that kind of thing. And last, entertainment and mental health, something to help with anxiety, boredom, anything related to the mind, the spirit. These are the general categories of kits I'm working on. Some have multiple components, but they seem like a good way to lump things together. EDC first, and that means everyday carry. And that includes items I have with me in my day-to-day life. A bug out bag or 72-hour emergency kit. And that I try to have 3 days of food and supplies, 1 day of water because it's heavy to carry water, but also the ability to collect and purify more. The car emergency kit, and I want to be prepared to spend a day or a night in my car. Home emergency kit. I'm in the process of developing this, but what I'm working on are 2 weeks of food, water supplies, assuming there's no power or city services or water. And then 1 to 3 months of non-perishable food and supplies, but not assuming that there's no power or water or services of any kind. And finally, an off-site kit. I hope sharing the way I'm thinking about prepping and emergency kits was interesting or helpful. I would love to hear if you see any big gaps in my thinking or have a very different approach to this. I feel like there's a lot for me to learn. Thank you so much for watching the video. Please like, comment, and subscribe.